Good evening, good night, greetings and salutations. This is officially All of Us Sinners Season 2. Tonight's episode is entitled The Magic Flight, and I'm Nobody, your storyteller, your narrator, and your number one fan. I hope that you all have the opportunity of enjoying tonight's episode as much as we hope to. Thank you for your time, your efforts, and your energies. Welcome in, Jacob. How we doing?
Hello. It has been a while. How are you?
Not horrible at all. That is a lovely change to the avatar. What are we into these days?
This was just from a... This was just a part of a comic for a game I play, Genshin.
Oh, nice. How was the anniversary? You guys have fun?
We did, yes. It was a nice little time together.
Nice. What are you guys celebrating? 2, 3, 5? 10. Wow. Nice.
Met in high school and have been together since.
Oh, that's always a good story.
So I know I missed about 3 weeks of play. So I am very much out of the loop of what has happened.
I see. Have you had an opportunity to glimpse any of the episodes?
I have not.
Well, what is the last thing you remember? Let's bring you up to speed as quickly as possible before the others arrive.
The last thing I remember was going to a party, I think it was, at my sire's behest and with a group of other Tremere, with the goal of kind of just cozying up to the host and trying to help establish relations. And that's when I met all the other members of the coterie who also happened to show up there.
Yes indeed. So the having been called away, let's do it this way. So because you weren't there to witness it, so we're not going to put any thoughts percolating on any of the fires of your imagination. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your manipulation plus occult, and then roll your wits plus politics?
Manipulation and occult, and then wits and politics.
Yes.
That is a messy crit 4 for the manipulation and occult, and then wits and politics.
Why, hi, Fancy. How we doing?
And the other one's total failure.
All right. So over the last night and a half since being called away from the party, it's clear that your sire did not appreciate your increased level of testosterone. You proved in that moment to need correction. And instead of being a directly petty and small-minded sire, they went over your research and what you'd communicated up the chain through them and through your other channels that you were purposely keeping from them. And instead of it being a tribunal for your step forward, because that is in fact the next tribunal that you are preparing for, because as you move through the mysteries at each border, at each divide from one mystery into the next, being given more responsibilities, accolades, status, freedoms, there is a tribunal, and being called back to sit upon a tribunal is a step in the right direction. So when the missive came and you were called away from the party, your expectations were, with your new successes, that there was going to be some minor bit of promotion. Instead of sitting on a tribunal, you were sitting in the target of the focus, the driving home the creed that you and every other member of the clan swear upon when being initiated into the first circle of mysteries. The loyalty and fealty and the respect for those above you, because sooner or later you will reach those levels or you'll wash out. And unfortunately, the failing to communicate even that minutest bit of success is being painted as your deception. In the process of defending yourself, you've proved that you did not in fact report the small bit of success. In defending yourself from the charges of deceit and deception and potentially needing to be censured, you prove that there were other opportunities that you could have reported on, other statuses you could have reported on, other moments specifically, and not limited to your connection specifically with Caroline Birch and the details of what took place there. It has not been a good night and a half, as while death comes to every kindred upon sunrise, the expectation of some small measure of privacy when you die for the day is unfortunately one of the many civil liberties that were denied you. Instead of dying for the day at your table, instead of dying for the day in your space that has been gifted you as your lab and focus of your time, you died for the day on the bench in front of the 7 highest ranking members of the Chantry, knowing that those undead monsters would have full access to you and your laboratory without your agency nor your consent. Jacob defended himself admirably and proved that he was not in fact purposefully or incidentally attempting to keep information from his higher up, his reporting sire and the magisters above him. But in the doing, he has been leveled and labored with reporting nightly the happenings of his new group of associates, especially with what is happening in Spanish Harlem. It is quite pressing and needing of attention, especially with what is happening in Dumbo and the connections to the Hakata, and especially as he has become enmeshed within the circle of influence of Caroline Birch. So while granted the opportunity to once more regroup with his coterie, he is on a relatively short leash. They've even provided him with a sending stone so that he might speak into the shadows and make his report no matter where he is. And hello everyone, once again, how we doing?
I'm just happy it wasn't as long of a day at the pharmacy as I was expecting.
Only 12 hours?
That's what I was expecting.
No. So you got out of there in 11.75 hours.
Right? No, our DM and the regional leader was coming in this morning, and my tech called out yesterday. So I spent the first 2 hours of my day while I was supposed to be in a meeting for my internship, texting all of the techs I know, waiting on responses, and finally texting my district leader. It's like, so my pharmacist is alone today? Can you fix that? So I was expecting a much longer day.
Understandable. Why, hello. Hi, baby. Hi, Lyric. Hello, Penny. And good evening, Jacob.
Good evening.
Not sure if you guys are aware, but we are all gathered well ahead of our hard start this evening.
Lies. It's a lie.
More than likely. The Earth shifted on its axis, moving us back in time 10 minutes, causing us to be actually 20 minutes behind where we should be. Yeah, that works. Tonight is well past the midpoint of our Season 2. Tonight is the culmination of the previous efforts and actions of our group of sinners. So, with all due weight of meaning, thank you all for being here. This hobby, I'm not sure if you all realize, is very special to me. I enjoy all aspects of play, and while it is a labor of love, sometimes more labor than love, it is always with, in fact, love and appreciation for the efforts of all of these many wild, wondrous imaginations, bringing the stories of these characters, their world, and by extension, their universes together. Before we dive in with all due focus and acclaim, what questions does everyone have in regards to their character's position in the world and the happenings that have led tonight?
Because it's been a while, I just want clarification on Caroline Birch. Was that the person that the rest of the coterie met, that was kind of like we were helping, or was that the host of the party?
That was the season 1 finale's relative big bad, who called into question everything the coterie had thus far believed they were party to and part of.
Okay. Just want to get my notes in order. I think everything should be fine then.
One question down. Who's next? Okay. And as Jacob was not in fact here, and with his small catch-up, is there anything we'd like to reveal to Jacob the player or Jacob the character?
This one time at band camp?
Oh, don't stop now. You have our interest.
No, that was it.
All right.
Are we taking it that they were with us at the meeting, or is that not what it
No.
is? I don't want to give things that they wouldn't be present for, unless it be completely out of character knowledge.
Okay. Understandable. They were not with you at the meeting. Remember, they were called away and slipped out of the party. They had their own issues they were dealing with during that time.
They don't know anything that happened after that.
No, they do not.
That kind of ties my hands as to what I could actually say in character.
Understandable. I want to keep some internal logic and agency going. That being the case, and with more than enough time to spare before our actual hard start, we will be picking up exactly 4 days later from the fallout of meeting Mr. Delaventura, meeting Marlena, having those discussions and conversations that took place there. Describing the last 4 days comes down to this. In broad strokes, hell, and not the comfortable fiery pit where everyone and everything is immersed in heat, humidity, and the actual licking of flames. No, the more Aramaic idea of what hell is, the end of life in preparation for what comes next, placed into the ground and left lying. There is a weight that causes anxiety for the kindred. The Gangrel, by and large, are able to meld with the earth and disappear into the particles of dirt, sand, and all sorts of natural substances, being there without actually being there. Their body returned to the red dust that Adam was created from. Other kindred who take to such notions of burying themselves to die for the day, upon resurrecting, there is a weight, a pressing down of things, even with their lack of a need to breathe. It is claustrophobic. It is tension, pressure, and a constant thing that takes every ounce of willpower to not respond to not give oneself over to the creeping dread, the fear, the anxiety, and the sheer weight of it all. It is not the safest of things to do, but at any port in a storm has always been the nature of the kindred, survival at any and all means. Yet, in those first few moments of burying yourself and going to hell, there is that anxiety, that creeping dread, that just overwhelming sense of the rest of the world has happened. And here you are moldering away. The rest of the world, the bugs that attempt to nibble, the parasites and other subterranean things crawling in and out of various places. The dread, because you're not sure what is a foot, maybe two above your head happening. Are there people out there who will see you rise from the dead like some zombie from some late 50s, early 60s horror movie? Are there watchers who notice the freshly dug grave that you buried yourself in? Are there going to be kindred waiting to, well, act on your moments of weakness, of resurrecting yourself? Hundreds of thousands of thoughts and nothing you can do about them except for sit there with them. All of that pressure and tension, unable to go anywhere because you can't even nervously shrug or stem or tap your leg or fix your lapel. You can't strike up a square or a cigar to force yourself to relax. You have nothing to do except for get through it, just like going through the metaphorical hell, one foot in front of the other. And that's where the coterie has been, because it is clear that several hundred things are happening. There are forces gathering, choosing sides, making declarations, and in the midst of it, as is always the case, there are three sides to every story: yours, theirs, and the truth somewhere in the middle. And that's without even counting the fact that people often purposefully misperceive, often purposefully misunderstand or misrepresent, which creates another side, another aspect to consider. And while you are not privy to those many maneuvers, the ripples of them can be felt, such as Penny gets back into a routine of staying as free from kindred society as possible by operating as a mercenary for hire, and with her already vaunted position due her past actions, she's noticed more and further requests. She's even had a request from as far east as Jersey City. She's had requests from as far north as Hunts Point. She's It's almost as if someone or someones are attempting to keep her as far and out of the city as possible. Aware of her skill at accomplishing such almost seemingly impossible tasks. Each request coming with larger and larger payments. Each request coming with reasons for her to be up near White Plains or Scarsdale, or having to go all the way over to Mattatuck or Riverside, or they are literally attempting to run her ragged to keep her busy, to keep, well, I'm not exactly sure what they're attempting to keep, but whatever it is, and it's not something that makes it very easy or comfortable, because they're clear that more people are interested in her. And Lyric, getting back to the night-to-night grind of protecting those who peddle the fantasy of flesh, as well as those who actually, in fact, peddle their own flesh to make ends meet, to accomplish the gaining of filthy, dirty lucre, the act of trading favors for favors and the like, watching the nightlife of Hell's Kitchen, one club after the next, and noticing that for the last few nights there have been more and more kindred making their way through. Careful not to actively feed in front of her, but she's able to pick up the signs after they leave or after they make their way out with their dates for the evening. Almost as if they're rubbing it in her face, attempting to get her to respond as most people would expect a gangrel to respond. As while she has no actual domain, this is her place of employment. And no matter what the girls say, she knows how debilitating the kiss can be to reason and other things. And baby doll. One thrill after the next has been the goal. Never get bored, because when you're bored, well, things always go even further sideways. Yet more and more of the drum circle across the street, more and more eyes standing in alleyways, more and more she feels them out there stalking and watching her, whereas before she wouldn't have paid any notice or any mind whatsoever. One party, she notices a clearly out of place Ventru dressed to the nines, keeping their eye on her. The next, a fellow brother in arms, a fellow rabble member who is a little too close to where she's hunting, and on and on. And there's no such thing as coincidence. Yet there they are, constantly keeping a watch, constantly trying to find a way to accidentally, incidentally, perhaps cause her to overreact in a way that could be prosecutable. The freedom and the boundaries of the traditions. It is clear that forces are amassing. And in that time, so too for Jacob. The agency that he had earned and fought for and clawed his way into, snatched away, sent on what is effectively a fool's errand, because his coterie, his group of associates, they're hardly the most ordered individuals. They're hardly the easiest to get a hold of. The easiest, of course, for him probably being Penny, or if he remembers the clubs that Lyric was bouncing at, or the areas to which he could potentially find other Bruja. So we pick up New York after night, after dark. The sun set, the hustle and bustle still in full bustle, yet a slightly slower pace. Instead of covering, 8 blocks in less than an hour, they may only get to 4, 5.5 in their walk. Instead of the taxis tearing across the city 2 and 3 at a time, they're, one here and there's another one, and there's another one. Instead of the bike messengers risking life and limb and the safety and sanctity of fellow pedestrians, they're still doing exactly that because the restaurants still need to get their food where they need to get them to, and the bike is the easiest way to get through the traffic, even at night. But there's a quiet menace, a dread hanging in the air. There's a unexhaled breath being held in the chest, the lungs beginning to burn. Everyone knows something is afoot. Everyone knows that something is changing. Everyone's wired and wary. We will assume that everyone has successfully rolled their rouse for the evening. Everyone is at, in fact, hunger one. Another night, another bit of tension, another drip of attention from those outside of your circle. Starting with baby. Rising for the evening, knowing all of those things that have happened and the things that you've sworn yourself to, or at least agreed to. What is, in fact, her course of action for this evening?
Well, it would largely depend on what her social options might be for the evening.
Well, what are they normally?
Well, it depends. Sometimes she has engagements, sometimes she has potential engagements, sometimes she just goes out and finds trouble on her own.
There is still the matter of the phone call that she made and didn't follow up on. It's been a few days and you know what could be percolating. You've been inside that mind. You've been inside, well, that presence. You know how they respond, especially when not hearing the all clear.
Yeah, if she hasn't taken care of that, then she will probably need to, and probably more than a voicemail, but not a personal meeting, because that could get messy.
Like people following you, crowding your space, being oh so interested in the lovely red-haired musician slash stripper slash wild child and gremlin of chaos.
Well, she's probably used to that.
Okay, so paying it no mind and making your call is how baby's starting her evening.
That will work.
Excellent. Did she spend the last night out, or is she rousing from her slumber, rousing from death in the comfortable space of her own haven?
Probably from her own haven.
Oh, excellent.
She's got food there and all, so.
Excellent. So she can all but feel the ambiance in the air, the drum circle starting there across the street in the park. She can all but feel the normal rumble and rack of cars passing by. She can all but hear the typical, oh so very typical and typically boring argument over who left the dishes in the sink this time. My dishes are still in my room. They can't be. You're the only one who eats kimchi at 3 in the fucking morning. And back and forth and back and forth. For lack of a thing to do, they often do everything they can to annoy one another. For lack of a thing to do, they often do the worst thing you could do with people you trust your sleep to. They argue. They pester. Like siblings who can't be at peace with one another and have to express their care and adoration in the most volatile of manners possible.
Maybe we'll wriggle into some sort of attire for the evening and go out and glare at them.
She started it. No, I didn't start it. You left your fucking dishes. I washed the dishes last week. That was fucking last week. See, she started.
Oh my fucking god! Just fucking, just fuck the dishes. Throw them away. Then nobody's got to do the fucking dishes, right?
Oh my god. You don't know. just shut up. Just slam. I don't know what they're going on about. I left the dishes. I was gonna get them in a couple of hours.
Fucking brilliant.
They got a
any fucking phone calls or messages or mail or anything?
Yeah, you get like 10 messages. Some clearly stuck up, angry bitch keeps calling you, just yelling, screaming, call me, fucking, and she goes on. I don't want to quote her. Sounds like sounds like she's from, maybe out near Elmhurst or something. Got that suburbanite accent.
Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot about that. I guess I better fucking call her so she quit fucking calling here, right?
How'd she get our number anyway? I don't know any rich bitches like that.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. I'm gonna go. And she puts her headphones in and walks out the door. Whatever she's going to say, as per usual, lost in her wake. And speaking of being lost in their wake, it has been 5.5 days since you've seen your coterie, Jacob. It has been 5.5 days of relative quiet, yet the chantry, specifically those of the second mystery and higher, have been busier than usual. Those of the second mystery and higher have been buzzing like a hive that's been aggravated by a sighting of a wasp near at hand. Those of the second mystery and higher have traveled from one chantry to the next, whether they're, the Kenilworth chantry or one of the others. They've been circulating and trading members and having conversations. The Jewish Museum chantry, the chantry of the Five Boroughs over there up in near Columbia University, there's just a lot of activity that doesn't seem to be, discernible. There's no reason for it, not as best as you are aware.
Presumably Jacob is not at that rank, correct?
He is not.
Well, then it doesn't concern him. He'll try and question his sire about it. Ask him, like, hey, what's all the hubbub about?
That is a good question, Jacob. How much successes have you managed to pay into the coffers of all of the effort and vitae spent to keep you immortal?
You ask this as if there's a definitive answer, but I feel like this is more of a rhetorical question.
Oh no, not rhetorical at all. How closer to the goal of your embrace are you? How close to returning the investment are you?
No closer than after the trial.
I see. And yet, and there's a small flitting nanosecond of a smirk as he reaches into his pocket and pulls out what effectively looks like a small Red Bull can, but it has none of the normal typography nor branding. And he sits this small burgundy and yellow can down in front of you, turning it so that the manufacturer printed on the sleeve of the can is visible to you. Venture Cafe Decoctions, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Open it.
Jacob will raise an eyebrow, but will do as he is told.
The most effervescent, bubbly scent of vitae hits your nose. Thick and melony, tinged with iron. Bright and causing a small tickle at the back of the nose. It is absolutely thirst-inspiring. It smells divine. And that's the problem. Nothing remotely mortal should smell divine to you. Nothing bottled in Milwaukee should smell divine to you. Even during your living days, you weren't much of a beer drinker, and this is hardly beer. It's more of a beer-like seltzer, and yet there is that very engaging scent of actual vitae. Try it.
He will take a sip, rather intrigued by this new discovery.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that, says a little voice at the back of your head. You don't typically have the opportunity of having fresh, hot, delicious blood coating your tongue, yet that's what this feels like. It tickles all of the wrong places to be tickled right at this particular moment, because the pleasure that it inspires is unmistakable. The sip causing your hand to be drawn back towards your lip, because you know what's in this can. This is the essence of goodness. This is the hunger via concentrate. This is satiation on demand. And none of that normal, disgusting, ash-like aftertaste of drinking the bagged stuff or the dead stuff, or worse, the animal stuff. This is living and fresh.
This is the real deal. This is... No, that's impossible.
It is, isn't it? And yet...
Vitae loses its... Human blood loses its potency only a few minutes after it leaves the body. To get from Milwaukee to New York, it's a minimum 14-hour drive. There's no way.
East of the Mississippi is this. West is another brand, and they are all originating from Milwaukee. And worse of all, they're using the interconnected relay points of the Hakata and their couriers and their illicit networks of delivery. They are not even lowly thin bloods of the pyramid, and you are cherished mind. You were embraced for your brilliance to solve this, and those backwoods farmers' daughters and husbands are creating the essence of the nectar of the gods on demand. He smooths his hair with both hands. You can understand why I'm a little perturbed with your lack of success. You can understand why the tribunal was called. And you can understand why your curiosity as to other happenings is beyond your pay grade. the least you can do is ensure that the motley, that clique, that coterie of yours are at least profiting us by finding out what Miss Birch is actually up to, by finding out what Primogen Sawinski is actually up to, by finding out what Delaventura and his gaggle of ne'er-do-wells are up to in Dumbo. That could at least be your focus, something you might succeed at and bring some measure of acclaim back to the efforts of ensuring you have the potential of immortality. Enjoy your drink. And he turns around and leaves, not bothering to silently disappear into the shadows, but to, in effect, storm off in the sassiest manner possible.
Jacob wants so badly to throw this can at his head, but he holds himself back from it. And he just sits there, or stands there, staring at the can for a while. How a freaking beer can has somehow managed to humble him is something that he never expected in his unlife.
Damn brewers.
Hey, you leave them out of this.
And as you sit there looking at the can, we shift focus. It has been 4 days since that night. It has been 4 days since that conversation with Marlena. It has been 4 days, 4 nights, and 16 minutes by the time that Lyric's eyes begin to focus on the world around her. Having heard the details that she has, having been on the ground floor of the many quiet conversations she has, and noticing the slow encroaching of her territory. She knows she doesn't have any domain. She hasn't been granted by Prince Panhard anything that is actually hers. There's not 1 square foot of either of the clubs that she bounces for that is denoted as hers, and yet it very much feels like the world is shrinking on her, as if everything from outside is making its way inside. She remembers being a little girl in Harlem and her mother telling her, "You're not gonna be running in and out of this house. You're not gonna be bringing in all of that smell outside in my house. You're gonna go out, you're gonna stay out, you're gonna come in, you're gonna stay in. We're running around here smelling like all outside." And she understands that now. She feels that now. So, her eyes focusing, her awareness settling back into place. How does she begin the process of truly resurrecting for the evening?
First thing first, making sure the spirits hadn't got up to too much shenanigans or during the day.
What do you mean by too much?
You would also
All of the silverware stabbed into the ceiling? The fact that all of her drawers have been placed back in upside down?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. She kind of laughed at nature at it because there's way worse things they could have done. So she's okay with this level of bullshit. She checked her answering machine to see if there are any new messages while she freshens up for the evening, picks out her work clothes for the night.
Hey, yo, I know you're dying soon, so am I. Whatever you did with Frog, stay out of Dumbo for a while. Later, Rick.
That stops her cold in her tracks, and she just kind of stares at the answering machine for a minute, rewinds it, and plays it again because there's part of her that's like, nah, he's not really fit to call me right now. And just leave that message.
Please kind of go ahead and roll your wits plus awareness, or intelligence plus awareness, as you listen to the quietude and pick up on the background sounds and the light thereof. Rooms have sounds, so do places. A street in Harlem sounds different than a similar street near the waterfront. A street in Spanish Harlem sounds different than a street in the Bronx. A street in Queens sounds different than a street in Manhattan. And there's something unnerving about the sounds of the street around him. You are sure that he didn't call from any of his normal places because you know what his haven sounds like. You know what at least one of the print shops sound like. You know what Times Square sounds like, as well as Union Station and several other train stations. You know what Hell's Kitchen not only sounds like, but smells like and feels like on the skin. And yet there's something familiar about the sounds in the background, and yet you can't place them. You can guess where he is not, but there's something frantic and familiar about that in the background. And it sits there on the tip of your mental tongue, teasing you with being close enough to taste but far enough to spit.
Sighs and goes back to getting dressed. Shrugging into something that's dual purpose. Catch up or run out. It's not like she's gonna be exposed. It's also getting hella cold out. So probably like leggings, but they're got mesh panels or something like that in them, so that they look more scandalous than they are. And like a matching top under one of her various leather jackets, hair pulled up into like a whole high ponytail. She's gonna take the heels They'll wear her Jordans out so that in case she needs them, she can switch back into them and head to the club for the night. That's on its rotation. Having used that 4 days to kind of catch up and get back on schedule.
And there it is. That tension, that unrelinquished breath filling the lungs, causing a time to slow down to fractions of itself, nanoseconds, microseconds that feel like they stretch on for hours and days. And the small time from haven to work feels like forever. And slightly mentally distracted, slightly emotionally not present, there are aspects of yourself that are forever wary, that are always tasting the wind, always sniffing around corners, always ears pricked to the subtle sounds and the differences therein. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus animalism for me, please? And as that roll is happening, the nighttime is the right time. It's the only time that you have. It is an ever lasting, never ending facet. Seconds ago for you was last night, though seconds ago is still tonight. It is one of the many unspoken and unappreciated burdens of being kindred and having the rest of forever ahead of you, because you are, just like everything else on the planet, immortal as of yet, save for every other actually living thing. Penny, your mind is unchanging. Your synapses mend. They don't heal nor scar nor slow down. They are always exactly where they were the moment of your death, and that has its own upsides and downsides. Yet in the middle of now, with all the driving you've done over the last 4 days, how does Penny resurrect to this night?
Happily in her own bed with no extra visitors. And probably slightly paranoid after just a few nights ago having a couple of unwanted guests have a little powwow in her garage. Not to mention that damn spot that just won't come out after Finn killed that poor girl.
Death sticks to things. Being around as long as she has been, she understands that there's a residual that happens upon death. The human soul, sticky and dark as it is, sticks to things. It crawls into every crevice. It's just as bad for the environment as blood, because it trickles down to the lowest part. It finds its way like water into places where it was never invited. The soul does the same thing. It sticks and cracks and crevices and crawls into places to be found years and years later. The more positive, or the darker, the negative of the emotions of those who've died, the longer it sticks. And while happiness has its own reward, because typically most souls filled with that essence go on to whatever their just desserts are. They have very little unfinished business. They have no reason to haunt and dismay the living, and in your case, almost living. Darker souls who've not known peace, who've not known comfort, who've been worried and nettled by not only their own thoughts, but the thoughts and emotions of the world around them, stick around forever. So while that spot bothers her, and that spot, every time you send your crew to clean it, even you've taken soap and water and peroxide and even a piranha fluid to it once or twice, and it's still there. Every time they clean it, they say that it's clean. They'll take a picture of it, and slowly, as you look at the picture, you'll see the spot slowly begin to rematerialize, as if it is someone or something unwilling to let that go. And already bothered and troubled as your haven actually is, there are certain things that just are a step too far. And the fact that that girl's soul, having never known peace, is now visiting that upon you. Well, it's a lot of a lot.
It is, but she is going to dutifully ignore it, as she does most other things. Because she would just like, for once in the last few weeks, to have a nice quiet night at home, eating a metaphorical bowl of ice cream.
Peace is oftentimes overlooked. It's not fought for. People believe that, you can only have peace if there is no, in fact, defense and violence for it. However, there is a heavy toll and a price to be paid for every moment of peace. There's a trade off, as it were. So resting, attempting to do nothing. She is troubled, of course, by the knock at her door.
Just stays in her pajamas and looks through the peephole.
It is one of her lesser trusted, not simply because they're untrustworthy, but because they're one of the newer members of the staff. And he's knocking and knocking and doing that pensive foot-to-foot shuffle, like he knows he can't leave without whatever he's come for, but he doesn't really want to come for whatever it is that he's coming for.
She will put on her game face and open the door with a smile. Yes, darling, what can I do for you this evening?
Hey, Miss Penelope, they told me to come tell you, said you know what to do. You got like an arm's long message, pile of them just piled up, just like the other night when you had to leave and you took the other car and the bike and all of that. So for now, we kind of need you downstairs. We got like a corporate party and it's supposed to be 65 people, yet there's only 4. And I don't like the look of them, but they seem relatively harmless. They're just like weird, like weird, and like I was told to come get you. I'm sorry, but it's supposed to be 65 people. I thought it'd be an easy night. They even called me in for the extra overtime, but it's only 4 of them.
I'm sure the rest will be around somewhere.
They're already a half an hour late.
Only fashionably late when you get there. Let me get dressed more appropriately and I'll be down shortly, dear.
Okay. I should have brought the messages, shouldn't I? They said that. I'm sorry, I forgot the messages. Somebody named Marley. Somebody named Marley and like the dog, like me, you, and Marley, or whatever that book was. Like we had to read it in like 9th grade. I forgot, but yeah, like Marley and.
Are you talking about Marley and me?
Yeah. But it's like the person who left the message is like on behalf of Marley and or something like that.
Marlena?
No, not like the song. Oh, well, yeah, maybe that was who it was. I'm sorry, I should have brought it up, but there's so many of them. I don't feel like
I
walking around.
understand you. Run along now. I'll be down shortly.
Okay.
Be sure they're in my office.
In your office, right. Okay, cool.
Ta-ta. Closes the door. Perks of being the boss.
Alone at last. Relatively free and peaceful. There's quietude this side of the door. There's the lack of the world pressing down and things needing to be accomplished. Do you say that it's not worth it? It's not worth the effort. Whatever it is, it'll sort itself out in time, right? Nothing has ever gone off the rails if you've ignored it long enough, right? You could not bother with going downstairs.
She could, but yeah, fuck it. She's gonna change and get dressed more appropriately to host a corporate party. And we will head down.
There are, on the list of things that you would much rather not have, it is heading downstairs and finding Kadir, Valerie Duvall, Catherine Weiss, and worst of all, Uncle Smelling standing, seemingly facing off with your staff, but it is clear that your staff is merely put off and unable to do much else in the moment except for keep an eye on what was supposed to be a corporate party.
Good evening, everyone.
Penelope, Kadir says with a small incline of his head. And Uncle
Nice to
Smelly
see you
closes, even with his mask up, even with his disguise well in place. You know the face of that small, misshapen kindred anywhere. Being this close to him, the scent that begins to crawl into you causes a mental gag. And there's something about just his sheer aura that causes things to slide uneasily inside your mind. Thank you for having us, he says, oh so politely, and yet each syllable causes that twinge of pain like when you slam your funny bone.
To what do I owe the pleasure?
Perhaps we should talk in your office. Yes, I'd love to be able to talk in your office. Forgive him, Penelope. He, as a master of the information systems, needs to be here to keep track of our electronic security. We do apologize about your lack of service for the next small while.
Quite all right. She will look around at her staff.
Flabbergasted by the weirdness of the people gathered. They're literally wiping the same spot with the same towel that has never touched a spritz of Windex as they just wipe and watch. And there's just
Everyone can go have a lunch. Shoo now.
You want us all to go at once? I know I'm getting a meatball sub, and then maybe with a little bit of Parmano on there, Parmesan Reggiano. What are you talking about? You said we can go have lunch. That means... And what is the policy? One of us has to always stay because we don't... Yes. Here's the reason why I'm trying to figure out. She wants us all... But I really want a meatball sub. Oh, fucking God. Would you...
Brian, it's okay. You can go.
You sure, boss?
Absolutely, darling.
And as they trundle out, he stops in the doorway, flicking a look from them to you, and silently asking, "Are you sure?"
I'll just give him that little shrug with a coy smile.
Excuse me. Everything and nothing can be equated with a look. That haptic communication that many peoples have with those that they trust and count on and have known for years, or even have just shared the same social upbringing. Those small nothing looks, or points with the eyes, or upturned chin pointing in a direction, or the downturned cast, or looking at the fourth wall for a confirmation. All little things done haptically that don't mean anything to anyone outside of that circle. And that doubt means so very much. Their livelihoods depend on not only this job, but your mental sobriety in a lot of cases. A discernment for what they're dealing with, and the fact that it is eventually worth it. All of that safety and security and that emotional support comes from Penny. Far different from who she was all those years ago when snatched off the side of the road, as it were. When having her senses rattled. When everything she was became nothing more than a fairy tale told to some lost wayward child, meaning absolutely everything and nothing. Just like a phone call in the middle of the night. No, after a certain point, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, after a certain hour in the evening, a phone call becomes an omen of bad tidings. After a certain point in the night, even a text can be equal to that. The sound of a banshee wailing. So as baby dresses and prepares for her evening, does she attempt to return the call from home? Or does she try to find some safe place outside of her sanctum sanctorum, outside of her haven, outside of her walls of security to make that call, to make that attempt at communication?
I'm sure she knows where there's a payphone in the immediate area. As rare as those are now.
Absolutely. They're not so much a payphone, but a landline that they let people use. They get their money's worth by being one of the few places that have a public phone. not attached to someone's hip or needing to be plugged into a power supply. It's just plugged into the wall, and it's there for any customer to use. A respectful ask of no longer than 5 minutes is, of course, posted there in several neatly handwritten notes about the phone. And yet, they know that there are a lot of people who count on that phone. Because as eponymous as cell phones are and laptops are, there are still those who are on the bubble of actual poverty, especially here in New York, that need at least some reliable sense of communication with the rest of the world. They've gotten calls from as far away as Nova Scotia or Paris or Irkutsk. They've even had a call supposedly from the North Pole relay station, but they couldn't be too sure about that. So as Baby makes her way in, there's a head nod of recognition, and they continue on. And the sound of metal gets lighter as they close the door to grant some measure of privacy. The clerk even moving behind the glass back into the shop.
She will take an unnecessary breath and dial the phone, hoping to herself that no one answers.
If wishes were fishes, we'd all live under the sea. Wishes were horses, even paupers would ride. And hope, second only to mankind, is the number one way to have your feelings hurt, your dreams dashed, and the cold shower of dark reality to wash over you. You're sure that because it is a landline, that one or two of those rings should be dead air, connecting from this to the other end. The phone rings exactly once and she picks up. You hear her breathing, because unlike most, she actually tempts and teases the beast, even when she's alone. Because she says, the lack of feeling, the lack of breathing, the lack of taking in the environment is what causes all of the monstrousness. Mind you, she is one of the most vindictive kindred you have actually ever met. She once had a cab driver fired for 6 months straight, following his exploits, having her staff and retainers follow his exploits, helping him get one job after the next so that she can call and complain and have him fired. She holds grudges.
Fuck. Okay. Hey, how you doing?
B. Really?
You know, I got involved in some bullshit and I didn't want to just, fucking fall off the face of the earth, so I thought I would, reach out. So, yeah, so I did that. So, like, I'm not dead, obviously. Well, I mean, dead, obviously, but, how are you doing?
B. Really? 4 days? As if I don't have any feelings. As if my emotional state means absolutely nothing. 4 days. 4 whole days. Not just the daytime period, but 4 whole days. This... Really? And then a phone call?
I know I fucking suck. I just it slipped my mind. I mean, seriously, it did. You know how I am.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I don't know why. I hope that you'll come around, that you'll change, that you...
I mean, fuck, you didn't send no one over to check on me, so I mean...
What are you talking about?
Or you did, and so I don't know why you're fucking mad.
I'm mad because you avoided them. You didn't even bother introducing yourself to Stefan. And I said how great you were to get to know. He's like 5 blocks from you. I'm 6. No, 10. Anyway, I sent people to check on you. And Stefan said that you already had people watching over you. How many people are you stringing along like this? How many people are you calling yourself getting involved with?
Oh, baby, you know that you're the only one I string along.
Now's not the time for jokes, B. How the fuck do you know Carolyn Birch? And why are you involved in her real estate deals?
I don't fucking know Carolyn Birch.
Really? Mr. Delaventura?
I mean, I know who she is. I know Dell. And Dell fucking almost hit me with his car, and then we fucking hung out a little bit, and then I fucking got forced to help by your goddamn friend Arturo to fucking go over and help him in goddamn Brooklyn, of all fucking places.
You're involved in that bullshit? Really? And you leave contact for 4 days? You're involved with the expansion into... Oh my god. Oh my god.
I mean, I don't fucking want to be.
So that's who's doing your security, the Hakata? Really? Oh my fucking god.
I got nothing to fucking do with the Hakata other than what I'm being forced to do.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. You're just so fucking selfish. I'm sitting here worried about you, and you're getting involved. Oh my god. And a call. You couldn't show up. You couldn't come by. Oh my god. This is...
You know why I ain't coming by. And it's best that we don't, fucking see each other right now.
You always say that. And you're the one that always pushes me away. As much as I pour myself out for you, you just don't care. You don't care about anybody, do you?
That's not fucking true. Sometimes you push me away too.
I've never pushed you away. I've only tried to push you to be better. To do better.
Right, and you're not my fucking mom. Because that would be sick.
Someone needs to care about you because you don't care about anybody, including yourself. You get involved with gangsters. And strippers. And porn stars. And that basis was kind of cute, though. But you just do things. People count on you. People...
Oh, yeah, and you're like the fucking paragon of virtue, aren't you?
At least I care enough to feel. At least I cared enough about people to check in on them. At least I cared enough about people to express myself to them, to open up, to... Why do you always do this? Try to turn this around on me, make me the bad guy.
I'm not trying to make you the fucking bad guy. I'm calling you to tell you I'm alright. You already knew I was fucking alright, but I'm giving you the call anyway.
A call.
I mean, what do you want from me? You want me to come over there and fucking then we end up doing the same shit we always fucking do?
How about an actual conversation instead of you making me the bad guy? How about you consider listening to me?
Fucking bad guy.
Oh, so you just say I'm naturally the bad guy?
Yeah, you're just naturally the bad guy. You got a fucking mustache, you twirl, and you fucking throw me on the train tracks.
I knew it. You think that I'm the reason why we didn't work. I knew it.
I don't think that. We're like fucking oil and gasoline, you just put it together and then there's a fucking fire and everyone dies. It's not good.
You keep saying that. And what has ever happened besides you getting... You don't want to be loved, do you? You know what? You know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It was my own fault. I shouldn't have fucking cared. You think that I'm the bad guy. You know what? Fine. Fine,
Oh
stay
my
away.
fucking
Hang
God.
out with your gangsters. I don't. You know what? I don't need this. Click.
Oh my fucking God. All right. She slams the phone down.
What's her strength?
Her strength is 2, but she also has a dot of potence, so
Yeah. You hear a crack in the plastic.
well, I guess I can't fucking use this phone no more.
It's not shattered. It's not exploded. But you hear a crack. You hear an unsettling sound from plastic that everyone over the age of 30 knows is fuck. It's not broken now, but the moment that someone, yeah, it's easily play it, you can easily play it off. Whoever comes in to use the phone next will attempt to hang it up, and it'll probably go, and you'll be in the clear in regards to being blamed for it. However, it is still the fact that you know what it is. You know what happened.
Hey, thanks for the phone. If it rings and it's some girl who sounds angry, just tell her I fucking got kidnapped by fucking, I don't know, midgets or something.
Sure thing, Miss Doll. Hey, when is your band gonna get back together? I told my little nephew that I know actually a musician, someone who's actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of these days I'll fucking have some time to do that. Right now, I just, yeah, world of shit. You know how it is.
Good luck out there. It's a shame such a nice lady like you is always lonely.
I don't know that I'm always fucking lonely, but hey, you have a good night. Don't get robbed.
Yeah, not for about a month now.
You're probably about fucking due, so be careful.
And there it was. There it is. About due. These things are cyclical. You, her, the trouble that happens, the pressures of existing in a place where nothing ever actually changes. You go left or you go right, you end up back in the same place, back in the same spot. The only thing difference is that how much gas money, how many cab rides, how many train fares does it cost to get right back here. Right back to this moment, on the cusp of someone else's idiot ideas being materialized. And the world keep right on keeping on with no considerations of you. There was a point in time when you were all the rage, and by you're a band of studio musicians and young up-and-comers, and you all had a citywide tour. You had your group of fans, you had an actual agent who was trying to ensure you all made as much money as possible so that he could make as much money as possible. Then he got involved with she got involved with you, and one thing led to the next, and you're right back here again. As much money was coming in, as many opportunities were coming in, all of the parties and the toasts and the considerations, and yet someone else's plans got in the way. You all were nearly evicted. You all had to get resettled in a different neighborhood and start all the way over again. And like the same old scene from the same old merry-go-round, you're back here again. Someone else's plans are dictating the course of your life, your existence, your immortality.
But now she's all agitated, so she's gonna, I don't know, kick over a trash can or grab a trash can and rattle it, because they're probably attached to the ground here. And then she will heavily consider and start heading that way to go meet this person that Sadie talked about and maybe bite him a little bit, just out of spite.
Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your reflexive wits and awareness, or wits and streetwise?
She is way more streetwise than aware, but that looks like 5 successes.
That's a very, very good thing. What does she say? You're getting involved with gangsters. Stevan said that you were already being followed and being watched. And it's only as the final echoes of the tossed garbage can settle. Quick glance to your left and right as you are moving relatively quickly, block after block. There are several ways to trade off stalking someone, at least from what you understood from dating that cop several years ago. Cops have it a little easier. They just radio ahead. They occasionally use their cell phones to call ahead so that they don't have to run lights and sound. They talk to each other over the mobile without ever putting on lights and sound. Cops are almost everywhere. Every couple of blocks there's a cop car, or a cop getting a cup of coffee or energy drink, or talking to a witness, and they're able to keep a wide area of watch without doing anything outside of the normal. Another way that they do that with unmarked cars is they have several cars, typically 3 to 6 standard looking non-detailed cars. One of the best things they were able to do during the busy heydays of the past was have cop cars, unmarked cop cars that looked like taxi cabs. Seeing a cab in your rear view was never a problem. Seeing a cab was never an issue. It's harder to do on foot if the suspect has access to a vehicle, and it's harder to do in a vehicle if the suspect is on foot. But there are certain things that you can do. The walk every couple of blocks, to radio ahead which way you guys are heading so that someone else can pick up the tail and you can turn off, and then they'll keep an eye, and then they'll radio ahead or call ahead and they'll turn off, and so to say that, like most things with baby, she picked it up without meaning to pick it up. There's that same fucking Boston Red Sox baseball cap. No one wears the Boston fucking Red Sox baseball cap. And yet, you've seen 2 of them. One tall, sandy-colored blonde, one short, dark-haired Latina. You've seen a Chicago White Sox, a Colorado Rockies. Nobody wears that many fucking baseball caps, especially not with the brims forward and pulled down over the eyes. And those same style bomber jackets, athletic coats from various teams, and then those fucking acid-washed jeans. Who wears... Without a shadow of a doubt, she knows that she is in fact being followed. Without a shadow of a doubt, she's picked up several similar faces. Handsome is handsome, cute is cute, voluptuous is voluptuous, but there's a similarity. It's like you get accustomed to things and you realize it only in hindsight. Like, you don't really pay too much attention when you're, riding the subway. You know what the stops are without really thinking about it, because you know how they look, give or take 1 or 2 people, a small bit of a rush. So you, even though the stops are announced, you kind of know how and when to get off, even if you don't see even if you're not in one of the cars that is facing out towards one of the signs letting you know which station it is. You get accustomed to things. You know how they look. You know how they sound. And the fact that you've seen these faces, these builds, these body styles, most recently in the last couple of days, fairly often enough to become accustomed, has your mind going a mile a minute, 100 miles and counting.
Well, agitated as she is at the moment, she does briefly consider going up and confronting one of them, and then deciding better of it, she attempts to hail a cab.
It's New York. You could be dressed in the most sheer see-through, or the most combat-oriented, or the most angry, barely pinned together leather jacket and a mohawk that's 7, 9, 10 inches tall, and you'd still get a cab. You still get someone pulling over. So looking relatively normal as far as such things go. Means the cab appears relatively quickly. And speaking of relatively quickly, the buzz is more than a creeper. It's fast and dirty. It's like doing a line of coke. It's all at once. The sip you took already tingling and causing you to want to sip a little bit more. To taste its detail. Not that you could read where the source comes from, but you get the hint of fighting for your life. Like that deeply sweet and spicy aspect of people who refuse to give up. You get a hint of age, something 2, 3, 4 decades. You get the subtle sweet undertones of melon and iron and all of those lovely glorious bubbles, and it filters away equally as quick. You need another sip. So looking at the can, does Jacob indulge?
What he needs to know is how it works. How did they manage to do this? And now he is determined to find out. Because now his pride is in question. And he does not want to be one-upped by some bunch of schmuck upstarts all the way out in Milwaukee when he's been trying to do this for years. So he will resist the urge to try and take another sip, because another sip is another sample that he could potentially use to reverse engineer whatever process they use for this.
So, as he is, does he analyze the can, or how is he going about trying to decide what's the best tack to take to try to crack this nut?
Step one is pouring enough out of the can and into its own separate beaker that he can actually look at the can and see if there's any sort of inscriptions on the can itself. So he wants to find out, basically, is it the can that's allowing this? Like, is there some enchantment that allows Vitae to stay potent while it's within it, or is it some property of the mixture itself?
Does he have auspics?
He does. Heightened senses and sense the unseen.
Okay. Go ahead and roll your wits plus auspics.
That is 3 successes and a notification about an update.
Oh, your Discord is about to update. Okay. Well.
It was a message from Incano, it said.
Oh, okay. Well, you have been busy. Those things, despite their automation, won't take care of themselves. So, we'll ignore that for a little while longer. Magic leaves telltale signs. Everything does. Everything about humanity and the extended humanity of Kindred leaves, if you know what you're looking for, details behind. Every living human is nothing more than a semi-solid bag of liquid to begin with. It takes in everything that they're exposed to and leaves a bit of itself behind. They're like parasitic bees is what humanity is. A parasite designed to propagate itself into the future, to move into an area divested of its resources, build to the point of absolute societal explosion, and move to another area, carrying its contagion with it, leaving bits of itself behind. Hell, the litter of the hundreds, 200s, thousands of years ago is the only testament to human civilization existing. The litter, the cast off detritus and bric-a-brac of ancient homes and ancient human lives is how we measure civilization. Pots and pans and beer and wine. So, catching the oh so deceitfully obvious hint of hematic magic about the can is infuriating. Because after a certain point, no matter how well constructed, every spell, every ritual breaks down to its component parts and leaves just a small glint and glimmer that it was at one point there. Not what it was, but that it, whatever it might have been, was there.
So even if he can't figure out the exact magic used, at least now he knows it had something to do potentially with the can. So he might try to focus some future experiments on that, but his next focus would be on the actual mixture itself and see how exactly they managed to infuse vitae into beer.
A lovely pinkish red sparkling cider, bubbling and effervescent. Who would have thought that some enterprising kindred would have attempted to make truly out of vitae, or a hard seltzer out of vitae? There's just the strangest small bit of Tylenol, actual honest to goodness Tylenol, is the only outlier. There's a small trace bit of ethanol, there's the genetic makeup of blood, there's carbonation. All of that he expected. All of that is frustratingly plain and obvious. The hint of Tylenol being present is another matter entirely, and that is not obvious, nor does it make any sense. Yet he is sure, based on the 3 different tests that he's run, that there is the presence of over-the-counter Tylenol melded into this. Emulsified and throughout the entirety of it.
And he will take a note of that and remind himself to buy a few bottles of the pills and the liquid, just in case it's one or the other.
Something so simple, something so obvious, yet managing to escape. The best riddles and best puzzles are made from the most indirect simplicity, because it could be anything. It could be several hundred things, and if you are wary enough, the answer keeps changing because all of those things fit, which is horribly problematic when trying to solve an actual riddle. To find the one actual answer, even as it could be several hundred others, and that is what is taking the bulk of his focus and attention. Test after test after test, and not being extraordinarily self-aware, because the problems have a defined solution. Hours disappear. Up in smoke, as it were, as each test requires more and more and more, and there is literally 1/10 of a dram left. One last sip, and the answer's dancing just outside of reach, just outside of being able to coalesce into a singular point. And one sip left. And it's 56 after the hour. Let's return at 6 after. See you all shortly. Welcome back. How we doing? Who's here?
Present.
I'm here.
Hi, present. Hi, here. We're just waiting on Noble and Diva.
I'm here.
Welcome back. All right. Well, we were going to step back and slide into the happenings with Rick, but as they are still away, moving into your office, Penny, you realize that it's not designed for this many people. It's not designed for this many bipedal humanoids to be occupying the space. And unfortunately, it does present you with the opportunity of being in closer proximity with Uncle Smelly.
Boy, it's sure a good thing she doesn't have to breathe.
Would you be so kind of describe your office for us? We've heard of it. It was mentioned
Right.
once or twice before. We've never actually been inside.
It is, all things considered, relatively simple. Desk, nice wooden desk, of course. A nice chair, probably a sofa or love seat for people to sit on. Just a few, paintings here and there. Nothing too. Hey, this person is super rich. You should rob this place. Type of stuff. Just run-of-the-mill business.
Okay. How many chairs?
Let's see. The one chair behind the desk, and we'll say a sofa for a total of 3 extra seats. Maybe a folding chair tucked to the side that someone can sit on.
As is always the case in situations where there should be consideration for others, it is the last thing done. Uncle Smelling, instead of sitting at one edge of the couch or the other, or better yet, obtaining the fold-out chair, sits smack dab in the middle of the couch. Kadir leans against the far wall opposite of him, as far removed as possible, attempting to keep him in the periphery. And Keeper Wheeze slides over the folding chair and takes a seat, crossing one leg over the next, causing Duval to have to choose. And she chooses incorrectly, because she makes her way to the desk and sits on the corner of the desk so that she's 3/4 of the way facing you with her upper body, and attempting again to keep Uncle Smelly in her peripheral. Kadir smooths his hair back out of his face and clears his throat. We can assume you know why we're here, Penelope.
Oh, so many reasons could cross my mind, but the most recent one that comes to mind is the volunteering of our dear Otoro, of myself, and acquaintances to the service of the Hakata.
Yes, and the lack of follow-through, and Marlena raising an ungodly amount of issues in defense of you, Mrs. Dahl, and Tamika's childer. While the others are of no real consequence, Marlena has pivoted on your good name, the things you've done to help the city, the efforts, the blood that you've paid for your position amongst us. And so we're here because you're, through Arturo's alliance, assistance to the Hakata, granted it some legality. As you know, there is an agreement in place keeping the Hakata from operating directly against the interests of any member of the tower.
Yes, for another couple of years, I believe.
Yes, a blink of an eye. This alliance's partnership was an effort to make peace and maintain a peace between us for when the partnership holds merit and standing. It also grants them the opportunity to operate inside of Dumbo while honoring the spirit of and letter of the agreement. Without your assistance, it throws all sorts of spanners in the work.
The nature of the assistance was not exactly specified. He did ask for our assistance to go to a meeting, which we did.
Perhaps you should have been a lawyer instead of a driver.
No, I enjoy the speed too much.
That's much the same case that Marlena made. That's much the axis upon which her argument was built, provided also, unfortunately, as a way to mitigate anyone being able to come after her for interfering and interacting in business above her station. She made a certain declaration as to her intentions for the area. Her intentions as a way of making peace with the various barons of the outer boroughs, claiming that she could potentially bring them back to the fold, making all of their domains tower domains. You can see,
which would be a brilliant coup.
yes, and you can see the sort of issues that raises, especially being as she attests and states that your assistance was delivered and you fulfilled the letter of the agreement. Yet, we have several members of the Hakata attempting to press suit on behalf of Dell, stating that your assistance and issues were not delivered, causing them to be in dire straits presently, sundering the deal and arrangement between us.
I can see how that would be unfortunate.
Disastrous, actually. So we're here as a recognition and respect of your previous deeds to get to the bottom of this as best as possible, so as to not enter into a full-fledged Cold War with the Giovanni and the Duncern, who are acting leaders of the Hakata of New York. They're going to put this before Prince Panhard. And while Primogen Sawinski and would-be Primogen Marlena are at odds, there is one thing for sure. This would be a breach of the contract. This would be a glaring cause for hostilities to escalate. We've battled enough to gain what we have and maintain what we have. Now is not the time for sabers to be rattled. Now is not the time to light the fires of war. So we're hoping you might provide another option save what Primogen Sawinski and Harpy Arturo are suggesting, are whispering, are gathering allies and aid to their cause, so that Prince Panhard's hands are all but tied.
I see. So, am I to understand there were additional terms to this contract that we weren't made aware of when we were volunteered?
It was to be to the success of Dell's ventures in Dumbo, and that has not been reached. Your assistance was for him to reach his goals.
He seemed quite the amiable fellow, if not shocked that Arturo agreed to his requests.
Yes, well, Julia was very informative in regards to that. You and several other coteries were chosen for your specific abilities and potential abilities. There was a lot of market research done, specifically and including the addition of Miss Dahl. And now, the Hakato.
Seems that there were poor choices made then.
Yes, it does seem that way, doesn't it?
Doesn't seem too far out of the realm of expectations that a member of our dear rabble and our fond little animal friends would side with people more their flavor, so to speak. Yes?
It doesn't make much sense. Not when there was so much to be gained individually, and for us as a whole. But if you don't have an opportunity or an option available for us, then, well, I believe we may be moving into the next phase. Oh, darling, I'm sure that something is percolating beneath her surface, but maybe we give her a few moments. I believe that the message of us being here has been delivered, and there is some serious consideration for what might happen to anyone's good name who's connected with the failure that caused us to step backwards into open, outright warfare on the streets once more. It is not a burden I would enjoy carrying. And while you and Miss Duvall are clearly of a mind, perhaps we allow cooler heads to prevail. After all, Penelope, as a hero of the land, a survivor of the wars past, I am sure you would not wish for us to once more cause what happened to happen again.
I would like to think that regardless, we would not go back to that place. After all, it did bring so many poor unfortunates into the war.
It did, didn't it? But at least it'll be in your name. After all, you are the most status member of your little group of associates. Nothing like a well-regarded name, after all. But I caution and suggest a few moments, maybe an hour or two, maybe more, for Penelope to find a plan that we might use to move forward to avoid that outcome. Unless, of course, Kadir and you, Miss Duval, have proper leave from the prince to act on your suspicions. No, I didn't believe so. Would you get the door, Uncle? Thank you so very much. Miss Wee stands up. A small nod of a bow. Penelope, I look forward to hearing what you and your group of associates have come up with, so that we can prevent that very, very dark time from returning once more to our streets. Shall we, folks? I believe that there is a lovely opening happening not very far from here, actually. I think we can actually even walk. We could use the breeze, the
Fresh air.
as fresh as it gets. Thank you for opening the door, Uncle. Thank you. Kadir, Mr. Duval, shall we?
A pleasure as always, darlings.
Yeah. Be seeing you, Penny.
Of course. She will see them out.
The exit as quiet and quickly as possible. Putting Uncle Smelly first, of course, leading the way as they silently communicate with looks and shrugs and a small bow and a goodbye and disappear out into the hustle and bustle of a New York night, leaving Penny alone with her thoughts.
She will go back to her office to read the memos.
Settling in the office, the quietude of the evening, the quietude of her space, the absence of the other kindred who paid her a visit, the messages imparted in their presence, the sheriff, the scourge, and the information center for the entirety of the tower in New York, combined with the Keeper of Elysium. Not quite the heaviest of hitters, but nowhere near the small, inconceivably small other members of the tower. None of those invisible members that traipse through the city, eking out their existences night to night. No, the sheriff, the scourge, the chief information center for all of the tower, and the Keeper of Elysium. The only thing that could have made it more official was if they'd thrown in a Primogen or the Prince herself. A clandestine, quiet attempt Rick, are you back?
Yeah, I put it in chat when I came back.
Excellent. Welcome back. There's an old saying, an aphorism. Being piss poor meaning so poor that you sell your piss to the various factories for dyes, for stiffening brims, for various textile uses, is where it came from. So poor that you had to sell the emanations from your body to provide for your family. There's also another aphorism that goes with that. Not even a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, which is unfortunately a step even further below being piss poor. Not having a thing to your name of worth, not even your own bodily fluids. It's a sad state. It's a constant state for many, but it is in fact a sad state. It is a state of deplorability so beneath the common line, the minimum wage, the work a day, check to check existence, that most people don't consider it a real possibility in the modern age. Yet as a kindred, that very much is where the status of things you typically are. Piss poor, and not a pot to piss in or window to throw it out of. Meaning most kindred throughout the city, most average, everyday, non-primogen, non-statist member of the tower only have what they can honestly defend as their own. Typically the clothes on their back, their apartment, their haven, their place where they keep their things, whether that's a storage room or a sewer access or a basement or a particular alley. It's the reason why for a name, for what they're called, be that a actual surname or just a false identity they've taken for themselves, many kindred would go right up to the full-fledged line and maybe a few inches over, breaking, shattering, or otherwise bending one of the traditions. Because you only have what you have. You only have what you're able to keep. And if your grasp exceeds your reach and you lose it all, then, well, too bad, too sad. Three drops in the bucket. So even without being gifted domain, even without being given official recognition as owning, operating, having a place of her own, her clubs are her fucking clubs. And for the last few days, there's been an uptick of kindred. Can't say that they're poaching because you don't really have ownership or domain over them. Yet they go out of their way to let you know what they're doing without leaving any proof of what they've actually done. Your word versus theirs. You don't actually have domain. It is grating, to say the least. So as you arrive tonight, prepared for work, your high heels underneath your arm, the sounds of the city being the backing beat to the tension ratcheting up in you as you step through the door, and you feel it, you smell it, the presence of kindred. There's at least two. You're not sure about the third one, but it's clear that if they're not together, they're willing to work in concert with one another. They're whining and dining and tossing money away like it's going out of style. They're also not drinking as much as they seem to be. You recognize the miming of bringing glasses to their lips and incidentally or accidentally spilling it on themselves or someone else to keep from having to drink it, or raising it in toast, miming putting it to your lips and then handing it off to someone else, saying it's not quite as sweet as they hoped, or maybe that's one needs more juice. Taste it, maybe sure. And it's all of those little games being played out with their eyes and intentions focused on you.
She kind of smirked for a minute. She's about had enough. But she wants to be smart about this. Like, how do we handle this without there being a bigger problem? And the beast, the bear, probably just they invite them outside and tear them to shreds. What's one too few kindred? But again, pretty much aware of where that could lead if she gets caught. So if she steps behind her counter, switches into her heels, hangs up her jacket, but she's definitely eyeballing the fuck out of them from across the room. Like, keep playing with me.
And there it is, that small, silent bit of a challenge and declaration. And you watch as they make themselves the centers of small bits of attention. They start gathering small cults of personality. They're tipping really, really well, so the bottle girls are very happy and attentive. They're tossing quite more than a few of the other who are there watching the flesh spin, twirl, cartwheel, and otherwise presents itself for admiration. So the dancers are attentive. And it's grating. You can say that you're not bothered by it. You can tell yourself that you're not bothered by it. And you can work on being not bothered by it. But the truth of the matter is, yeah, you are in fact bothered by it. Because this is in fact another predator in your hunting reserve. This is another group of individuals being in places that you don't think they should be. Because that's really what it boils down to be. This is yours. It may not be official. That may not be your name on the lease, the lien, the mortgage, but this is yours and has been for years, quietly to yourself, without any other kindred intruding upon your space. Those who even know that you are here, you specifically, not just a member of the community, usually introduce themselves and they brought their own, they're just here and they'll be gone soon. But these individuals clearly know you are here and are clearly the focus of their attentions.
Derek will get the attention of one of the other guys that she normally works with and get him to come to her. And when he gets there, hey, you see them over there?
Mm-hmm.
Throwing a lot of money around?
Yeah, big spenders are always good for a circus. Surprised nobody else has tried to start a fight with them yet.
I don't want no fight started, but I'm starting to wonder, because there's like there's rumors that a lot of counterfeit money's rolling around. Maybe they trying to launder. Might want to go check that out.
I already had Cinnamon do that, but you want her to do it again?
So you saying all of them bills is legit?
All the ones that Cinnamon managed to get from the other girls and trade off, yeah, they've all been real. The building has got to collect the counterfeits for it to actually count. Can't call police just because we think. And so far, everyone that she's purchased from one of the girls has been real. And that one there, the black guy with the glasses, some of the girls said that they've seen his artwork down at some of the museums over there on the east side. Said that he's some local artist.
Oh, he's an artist.
Yeah.
You know artists don't get no damn pussy. Please. That's why he here.
Yeah,
Alright, fine.
probably.
Keep an eye out, okay?
I'm keeping an eye out. I'm more worried about that little redhead by the door. She's been here stalking them since they've been here. They've been here twice this week. Especially, at least those two have. She don't cause no trouble. She buys her drinks. And she tips well. But she just gives me the creeps.
When he says the redhead by the door, lyrics in it.
Larry doesn't get around much. She doesn't really cotton to dealing with most kindred. She likes her solace. She likes her things where she knows where they are. Mia Morgan is something of a celebrity. She's one of the few recognized weapons in Torque's army. As a Baron, he has no small amount of acclaim. In fact, he's one of the primary reasons why Marlena isn't an actual primogen. It's really difficult proving to anyone that they aren't in bed together. Him being Bruja, her being Bruja, him being an out-and-out Baron. Not to mention, his closest next competitor being Richter. Two Bruja Barons and one Bruja who keeps saying that they're loyal to the tower. Yeah. And seeing Mia there in her leather jacket and red hair watching is a problem.
Take over here. I'm gonna take a lap.
Yeah, I got you.
So she steps him around, lets him step behind, and she puts an extra little bit of swagger and sass in her walk because she's still walking around the club and there's still patrons. And there is an image to uphold, so that's what she does. Stop and pause here and there, touch somebody on the shoulder, regulate, get them like the dap, and make her way toward the redhead.
She doesn't bother to skedaddle, and it's clear that where you're headed, at least as far as anybody who's aware of the semblance of security. And it's clear that she is, because where she's standing, she has almost a full view of the whole club. Where she's standing gives her the opportunity of watching and not necessarily always being in easy line of sight of anybody else.
Lieutenant Smirks closes on her. Make sure they're not watering you drink.
Nah, I'm with AA, darling. I just buy the drink because, it's rude to go into a place and not buy something.
Well, there's plenty of other things you could put your money on, But I have a feeling that's not why you're here.
Nah, can't say it is.
So, next question. You here keeping an eye on them or keeping an eye on me?
Yeah. I thought it was fucking obvious.
you would be surprised what is and isn't obvious dealing with us. But still.
Hey, don't be like that. I got nothing against the blacks.
You real funny. Real. But, nah. I'm being 100 with you right now. Are we gonna chat? Or what? Like, what's up? What are we doing?
What do you think we need to talk about? You got one of the highest.
What you and them here?
Well, it's easy, ain't it? You got one of the highest, quickest moving coteries in much of New York. You got two other players and one of the midnighters over here partying in a no-name, cheap-ass club like this. And no, I'm not saying that the club is cheap, but you buy cheap ass out of here. We all know this. And it's clear that they're keeping an eye, and she motions towards you. And it's clear that both the Midnighters and the players got no love lost for Marlena. Both of them in the pocket of Primogen Sawinski. And you talking to me. Instead of maybe finding a reason to kick them out of your club or getting them out of your hair. So, yeah. I'm here keeping an eye on the both of you. Marlena says that you and your buddies are good friends. So at least we can do is make sure that the friends of a friend don't come to a bad end, which is kind of where you guys are headed, right?
Well, see, the thing is, there's money for them. So I figured I'd start with the easier path than the harder one. Trust me, I want them gone just as much as you.
Well, somebody's got to watch you guys back. Nobody else is going to do it, especially being as there's so many people outlined against Marlena to begin with.
Yeah, I figured that. Alright.
What finally made you want to become one of the good guys?
I wouldn't necessarily call us that at all. We are what the fuck we are. But I'm just tired of people playing with me. I'm just tired of people deciding what to do with my life or my whatever this is. I just usually want to be left alone.
Yeah, well,
for years I've been left alone.
You know the funny thing? A good friend of mine, Torque, told me the only way to be free is to be responsible. As long as you're not responsible for you, you're never really free. As long as somebody else is responsible for you, you're beholden to them. No matter how many illusions you tell yourself.
That's the problem. I wasn't really beholden to anybody except for one person. And now that one person
You sure about
thrown
that?
into other people.
You sure about that?
No, I am no longer sure about anything. But, as you so poignantly pointed out, I need to go figure out how to get them to fuck from my club. Any suggestions?
None that are technically legal. But if you, I don't know, spike some of the girls' drinks and somebody's roofing drinks or something like that, Or maybe just get somebody to start a fight with him. I don't like his face. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And don't you Towerites, Camarilla sorts have rules against letting anybody know that you're a vampire? I'm just saying, like, all of those things, all of those opportunities to get somebody out of your way. Make them create a scene or some other such. But who knows, maybe I'm just whistling Dixie here. I never did learn how to whistle when I was alive, so I always find that funny.
They were kind of nod. You got a point. And even though there's every part of her predatory nature telling her to turn her back on this person, he does that and heads toward one of the regulars that tends to have a favorite girl. And she's gonna stop by him and lean over. Hey. Ain't that Rita over there on that guy's lap?
Excellent. Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your manipulation and either subterfuge or persuasion? And as that roll is happening, it shouldn't have mattered at all, baby. The conversation shouldn't amounted to anything. It shouldn't have distracted you from the world around you the way that it did. But it did. That's the problem about caring about something. Being invested in caring about something, or more specifically, caring about someone, even as and when they are very much like poison candy, so sweet that you have to have it, and yet so disastrous on your existence. It distracts you from the world around you. It takes your eyes off the ball. It puts you in a situation where anything is possible and probable. And right now, being followed as you are, the cab is a great way to slow them down, to escape those that are on foot. But the truth of the matter is, and here's the thing that sucks, you've noticed them absently before. These last few days. Evading them tonight is a band-aid over a gunshot wound. Where are you headed?
Well, she probably has one of two places in mind, and one of them is a better option than the other, but that doesn't mean that she'll choose it. So she's debating whether she wants to go to Chelsea and pound on Sadie's door, or if she wants to go wherever it is that Penny lives and pound on her door. But right now, she just lets the cab drive.
Being a pretty girl, one all alone in the world and all that good stuff, you're able to play on most people's sense of wanting to help the pretty person, the pretty privilege that comes with that. There is no shortage of people willing to lend a hand, get involved, all for a smile or a wink or what have you. The cabbie has been at this job long enough to be a little more jaded than that, and while it's clear that he finds you attractive, he knows that you are miles and miles and miles outside of his league. Even with all the fantasies he's seen from those, amateur archaeological movies that have been posted up in snippets in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes online. He knows that never happened in real life. That's all make-believe. That's all Hollywood magic. And yet there's still that hope that one day he'll have those fake cab conversations that he's seen so often, that he even knows the areas where they've occurred, or they supposedly occurred. And it's one of the many reasons why he wants to visit London and its outlying boroughs. You know, I gotta log a trip destination, doll. So is there somewhere that I can take you? Like we can go down. I'm not gonna go over any of the bridges, but you know, we can make our way towards Union Square. You said you got some people over in Chelsea, which is the other direction, but you know, there's Midtown. There's a lot of people out there. There's the Garment District. So, like, where do you want me to put? I'm gonna go sightseeing at night. There's the Empire State Building, which is, you know, in the same area. If we're gonna be heading up to, you know.
Nah, I fucking grew up here. I don't need to see any of the tourist spots. I guess fucking take me to Chelsea. She'll rattle off an address. Thinking that if she's being followed, that her friend in Chelsea will be better equipped to deal with it than Penny.
So, cutting back through Nomad and then heading west, across West 28th and past the park and down and around past the High Line and back over, you find yourself at your destination. There are songs written about Chelsea. There's songs written about most places in New York, some of them reaching farther than others. But there's a discomfort when slipping on an old pair of jeans, half a size too small, close enough to where you are now that they feel like something you could get on. Close enough to where you are now where the discomfort isn't immediate. It's a slow creeping dread of a thing. Luckily, you don't have to deal with water weight gain or eating a little bit too much to make them less comfortable, but that's what it feels like, as if the space is getting smaller, the air in your lungs being pulled out, that panic from all that pressure, because there is pressure here. You are once again reaching out to your poison pill for assistance and security, and all of the feelings still held from speeding along like a truck from a blind side. It very much feels as if fate is dancing just there at the edge of your vision, close enough that you can make out that there's something moving there, far enough away that you can't make out any details. And you're once again in Chelsea. Once again asking for help. Once again tying yourself to the insanity of her.
She will curse at herself silently in her head, and throw some bills at the cab driver and stomp up the steps. She will kick at the door rather than knocking at it.
There's some comfort in the familiar. And as you're kicking at the door, you can hear something on the other side, someone on the other side, quietly moving to the door, clearly peeping through the peephole. Or at least it sounds like they might be. But you know how she responds to any bit of rejection. You know what she does. She proves her validity through touch. Not always physical, but there is always a connection that she makes. There is always some adoration that she feeds on. There's always some excess, some proving of her worth through touch and connection, with so much as a heart palpitation, let alone an actual rejection. So as the door slides open and a golden tanned, clearly electronically delivered tan male stands there, his hair swept back, him wearing one of her silk chiffon robes that barely meets his mid-thigh. Abs so clearly defined you could wash clothes on them, and a smile you know has been practiced in the mirror for at least several hundred hours. Hey, how we doing?
At least I know she's fucking here. You gonna move or am I gonna move you?
Who are you for?
She will shove him.
Even angry, even tempted with a small flaring of passion, baby's not inconsiderate with her strength. It's not by any, semblance of the word a huge, massive thing, but unawares, she can squarely, at least temporarily, put down men 1.5 to twice her size. She can floor women on equal footing as herself. And unawares, there's not many people who would stand up to her initially. She's a force to be reckoned with. One of the many gifts of being dead and no longer feeling the same amount of pain as one did. She's able to push herself farther, faster, harder, and stronger without ever really meaning to. So she's been wary of that because there are so many instances where a rogue flare-up would attract too much attention. So she's sure, she's positive she didn't push him hard enough to break anything. She didn't move fast enough to fracture his fragile ego. Yet the way that he responds with "ow" and begins wailing and caterwauling causes her to grit her teeth, because he responds as if she hit him with a bat or ran his face into a wall of glass or ran over his foot with a SUV or pushed him out of a window or fed his hand into a trash compactor, or any number of the fantasies flickering behind her eyes at vindicating herself in her effort with his pain. And you see her appear as if she'd always been there. The breeze from her movement, how quickly she moved to get where she's standing, causing her clothes to settle tastefully and drape across all of those soft edges, those rounded curves. And her eyes meet yours and then slides past you to her victim. Because that's what he is. He believes he's gotten luckier than he's ever been before. His agent calling him up and a quick interview over the phone, and he was here 27.5 minutes from start to finish.
Tell your fucking girlfriend to suck it up and be a man there. Why the fuck are you following me with your fucking Boston fans?
That's what you came to say?
That's one of the fucking things I came to say. You know, every book starts with a fucking page, and this is it.
Stavarius, could you go upstairs? I have to talk to this one for a little while. And put your headphones on, dear. Hop in the jacuzzi. Take a load off.
This one of my fucking piece of garbage.
That's what a bad guy would say, wouldn't it? That's what someone who doesn't care would say, right? Just like you, always trying to hurt someone else.
Why the fuck you got me getting followed? What's up with that?
Oh my god, you're followed for your own protection. After the mess that you all made in whatever you're doing across the bridge with those girls, got everybody excited, and you called me, remember? And then you're gonna call me a bad guy. You're gonna make me out to be the one that's wrong here, instead of it being you.
I didn't fucking call you shit. You're being all fucking dramatic like you always are, and then you wonder why I don't ever fucking come around.
I'm being dramatic? I'm being dramatic.
Yes.
You assaulted my guest. You damaged my door with those filthy big boots of yours. You traipsed over here.
I fucking told him he could move or I could move him, and then he went buh, so I fucking moved him.
And I'm the one that's dramatic. You barge in here. What is it you really want to say? Can we at least be honest? You came here because you don't want to be alone. After all the trouble you caused, you know I'm the only one that's ever going to be there for you.
Yeah, and that don't make it good. That don't make it, the fucking things we're getting to. I mean, you know what was fucking happening. They're just fucking fighting all the time and shit. Now look, we're fucking doing it now. I'm not even fucking here anymore.
We're not fighting. You're just wrong.
Right, you're just fucking dressing me down like some sort of fucking child.
Did you or did you not just accost somebody who wants nothing more than to make everybody happy? Do you know he's studying marine biology online? He wants to do something with himself.
I don't give a fuck how long he can hold his breath, Sadie.
Yes, you do. You know you do. You know you do. You're not sure when she moved. You're not sure when she moved, but she's closer than she was. The distance between you, emotionally, is a canyon. Physically, is less than it had been 40 seconds previous, 20 seconds previous, 10 seconds previous.
Is he supposed to make me fucking jealous? Like you knew if you followed me, I was gonna fucking see it and come storming over here to bitch at you, and you had to have a fucking toy on your arm for me to see?
He doesn't try to hurt me. He doesn't ask for my help and then spits in my face.
Oh, so you got some sort of fucking relationship then? Well, excuse me, I'll fucking go away and let you fucking play house.
That's not what you mean. And there she is. Close enough to touch. Close enough to hit. Close enough to shove away. Your boots make you taller. And yet, meeting her eyes carries its own weight. You're not sure why you're not staring into those eyes and losing yourself in those pools, those orbs, and all of those other wildly, inappropriately romantic descriptions of her very pretty face. The fact that she still has a scent to her. The blood that she's clearly stolen, bolstering her own, making her skin warm enough that you can feel it. And you can feel it so bad the palms of your hands begin to itch. And the robe does nothing to hide those curves does nothing to hide much of anything. It's an insinuation of decency while being wholly 100% indecent.
What are you fucking doing? What are we fucking doing? You got your fucking date up here. It's not fucking. I should fucking go. Just, fucking tell your Boston people to be more fucking discreet or to leave me the fuck alone.
You don't mean that, baby. You don't mean that, B. Not at all. You know why you came here. You know why you put forth all the effort.
Yeah, but then I come here and you fucking, design this whole fucking thing for me to walk into, and then, what might have happened isn't gonna fucking happen now because you're fucking lying to me.
I'm not the one lying about my feelings, about my care. I'm not the one lying. I'm the one spending. I'm the one putting something on the line. I'm doing something instead of just going with the flow.
What the fuck are you putting on the line?
You are involved with a fucking gangster. You are involved in the middle of several primogens sniping at each other from a distance. You don't care who's in your shadow, who's hanging around the park right next to your house. You don't care how many of your meals are being followed. You don't care because you are so addicted to not feeling anything and just doing what comes to mind as a whim. Do you know what it would do to me when they catch you? When they actually act on whatever it is they're getting ready for? Do you know how... You don't care. I forgot. I'm the bad guy. I orchestrated all of this, made you make all of those poor decisions, put all of those people at risk. I made you choose that. I made you incidentally come to the attention of a primogen. I made you get in bed with a gangster. I made you go all the way to fucking Brooklyn.
Oh my fucking god, let me run down to the Home Depot and get some fucking 2x4s and nails.
No, we're not gonna play that game. You don't get to shift my care and concern for you into a bad thing. You called me. I wasn't in your life on purpose because you don't do anything but hurt me. You beat me for caring about you, for doing something, instead of just sitting on my ass letting the night happen to me.
If you didn't wield all this fucking guilt like a goddamn fucking sword, maybe I would come around more often. Maybe we wouldn't be where we is now, But no, you gotta fucking play the martyr. You gotta fucking everything's about you and I'm the fucking horrible person, but somehow I'm making you the horrible fucking person. Fucking turn off the gaslight, Sadie. Everybody's left the fucking room.
You don't get it, do you? I'm sitting here begging for you to prove me wrong. I'm pleading with you. Just do something that isn't going with the flow. And she rests her hand against your forearm, and a distance of a few inches should never feel so far away. A distance of a few inches should never feel as if you're yelling across a great divide. And it wouldn't if you just met her eyes, if you just looked at those full lips and how her hair, no matter how messy she is, no matter how uncaring she is, always seems absolutely perfect for whatever moment that she's in. A distance of a few inches shouldn't feel so far away, yet it does. And even as you feel the warmth of her hand on your forearms, even as you can feel her silently pleading to just look into your actual face, to actually see her, there's the old aphorism of water under the bridge. There's the old weight of all the same old arguments said in new ways. There's the weight of her actually believing she earnestly 100% actually cares for you. And that's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of consideration. Perhaps too much.
Well, she knows better to look in her face, because she knows what she's capable of. She'll know what will happen. So she just kind of keeps looking at the floor and looks at the hand on her arm briefly, and then back to her boots and says, I should fucking go.
And once said, it can't be taken back. Once meant, it can't be reabsorbed into the fabric of your being. You know that's the case. Excuse me. You know that being here is always, as always, a mistake, because it requires too much. The effort and the weight of the action, the words that can't be unsaid, nor the words that can't be unheard. And even as you know that, why is it so difficult to leave? And speaking of difficult to leave, one last sip, one last portion of a dram is all that there is for the mystery that is this, that are these, because based on the labeling on the can, the sleeve that it's inside, there's at least two companies. And even if the companies only have one person each, that's still two people who are aware as to what this is, how they were able to do this. And the fact that there are at least two people, maybe considerably more, that are involved in this, and your sire saying that it's both sides of the Mississippi, your sire saying that they are mass producing these, amongst the million other things that he insinuated and has said over the years. One last sip. What is it that you do, Jacob?
He's gonna continue experimenting with that last sip, because he doesn't want to give up any possibility of figuring this out. If they can do it, he can do it too. He's committed himself to this now. And if he just drinks it, then that's a potential learning opportunity wasted.
It is, isn't it? One of the main things engineers at larger corporations do, especially in manufacturing of machinery, engines, various parts of rockets, and several other hundred mechanical apparatus. It's part of the process. For every new engine, for every new truck, every new exhaust, every new rocket, it's part of the process called testing until destruction. Finding out when it breaks, proving when it breaks by testing again until you can predict every aspect of when it breaks, so that you know how to backtrace it and prevent that from ever being reached. And as the last sip enters your apparatus and makes its way through the process, evaporating and separating and otherwise being broken down by your tests, it is a difficult proposition to realize, as the melony iron scent of the vitae joins all of the other steam and escaped gases from your previous tests. that there it was, up in smoke, gone. The last sip. And you are exactly 0.00001% closer.
For a while, he just stares at his apparatus, contemplating his failures. And he buries his face in his hands out of sheer exhaustion. The last few days have been terrible for him between the tribunal, his sire's reprimands, and the failure of this experiment and the waste that he just created. After a few minutes of that, he pulls out his notebook and begins writing down all the failures so he knows what not to repeat.
All it takes is one. If you can string together one victory, you can string together two. From two, you can escalate through until you have a series of wins under your belt, because you've gotten so accustomed to winning, so practiced at winning, so well versed that there's no other option for you. The devil is always in the details. It's not always the smallest, minutest thing that gets in the way. There's not the 100,000 other straws on the camel's back that breaks it. It is but one, that last one. And listing out his list of tests and how they were conducted and what was used and the results, and it is a litany, a mantra of getting good at not reaching one's goals. The devil is in the details. At each instance, there was either too much of a sire's activity, not enough. It's too cold, too warm, too hot, too freezing. It was the person, the donor, was too drunk or too sober, too sad or too happy, too something. There's always something. The only pattern there is that there is no pattern based on the ingredients used, the sources provided, whether that person, whether that donor was destined to live or to die. And there's one small thing, one little niggling doubt. Your sire provided this clearly valuable once in an immortality drink, this beverage, without asking for anything, without demanding anything.
Jacob really doesn't understand his sire very well, his motives or intentions, and he ponders that thought for quite a bit before he decides that he needs some time away from this. Maybe his sire was right, and that he can't provide value here, but maybe he can at least provide some information with the help of this newfound coterie. So he's gonna take out his phone and shoot a message to probably if they need any help this evening.
You broke up when you said the name.
Penny?
In for a penny, in for a pound. It's odd, and in no small way odd. It is the big glaring oddity that you grow accustomed to, sort of odd. Of everything present, including the clothes on his back, the only thing that is his, or that has been given to him that was not from the chantry, is the burner phone he is now calling on. Penny sitting behind your desk. Where did she put the burner phones that her and Rick obtained for the group when working?
They would likely be upstairs. Why would she need them coming down to the office? People know to call her or try to send messages there first, typically.
Is there a message that Jacob leaves?
He'd probably say something along the lines of, "Hey, it's Jacob. Just wanted to reach out to see if you need any help with something tonight. I need some time away from my lab. Call me back if something comes up."
The truth is never an easy pill. Staring something directly in the face and seeing it for what it is, it's always a painful process. It's always far more jarring than it should be. And even as the few of us who have great memories, great long-term memories that can recount and recall with vivid clarity the time of day, the way where the sun was, how many clouds were in the sky, that's not exactly the truth. Memory doesn't work that way, and we don't work that way. It's the reason why we rebel when the truth that we've discerned for weeks on end, days on end, hours on end is so hard to swallow. Because while we all know once we reach a certain age and a certain level of maturity is Occam's razor, the simplest answer is the rightest answer. It is the most correct. It is what it is. And while that's often touted in today's society as a common aphorism for how things are, it is very rarely actually put into practice. It is very rarely actually accepted because the truth is so very fucking hard to accept. And Lyric sees that as she taps into her undead state. She taps into the society that she has fought to stay free of. She sees it in herself. Secondhand, third person perspective. As her target bites the stories and manipulations that she whispers into his ear. The good words she puts out looking out for him. And winding him up like some tinker toy and sending him off. Just like the elders and Ansela and Primogen and Sheriffs and fucking Dell has done since she's been enmeshed with the community at large. She's done exactly what she always attempted to avoid in others. She didn't want to be wound up. She didn't want to be set loose. She didn't want to be pointed at something at someone else's behest. She's always wanted her own agency. And yet she did the antithesis. She operated obverse to her own ethical center. She wound him up, pointed him in a direction for her own ends. As he marches over to literally get his ass kicked, to instigate a fight where he has very little chance of doing more than being a tally mark of the dead. What is it that Lyric is actually doing?
He's gonna wait just long enough for that first swing back after he swings and step in. Because she doesn't want to get him too hurt. Obviously, he is very much outgunned. So that it looks like she's doing her job. But she kind of is, you know. And she... once the fist starts swinging or whatever, she looks to the other bouncers and like kind of head nods to her way so that they'll back her up. And to the kindred she notices are there that are in the middle of this. Alright, you know you shouldn't be in here starting shit. Especially as it might get the wrong type of attention. You need to leave.
Several things happen at once, as they always do. There is a chill that runs up her spine as Lamar, the kindred in glasses, moves into the center of these different forces. And he begins speaking. What he says, she's still not sure. But the feeling of his voice demands. Autonomically, she take a step back. She's not sure what he said exactly. She did everything she could to not make any eye contact. She didn't make any of the newbie mistakes, making eye contacts, holding long conversations, providing No, he stepped into the center of them, began saying something, and she knows she didn't lose any time because Kindred don't black out. Even state their senses and their minds stretch out all around them, taking in the details of their situation, area, which person is the weakest of mind, and keeps them aware and abreast. Kindred don't lose time. They only have the time after darkness has fallen. They don't get the full 24 hours. They live in a world and an existence of forever night. And yet she's sure that time has passed. She's sure that she effectively passed out or fainted or was rendered somehow unconscious of what took place, because she's standing 3 feet further back from where she was. She looks to her left and her nearest squad mate is frowning and looking left and right, slowly trying to gather his bearings. Her weapon, her tool, equally bemused, equally confused, equally unsure of what just happened. And there's Lamar, bringing up the rear of his group of associates as they leave. And he stops in the doorway and turns back around. I like this place anyway. Low fucking class.
She shaking herself, kind of like the dog coming out of the water, and looks at the others. You see their face, you know what they look like. Don't let them back in here.
They're listening and nodding,
pass
but
the word around.
They're listening and nodding, but the frowns on their faces, they're trying to suss out what happened, says otherwise. They're giving you all the right signs, all the right sounds, all of the affirmation to following through on what you're telling them, and yet you seem confused before. If you were to be perfectly honest, looking at them, you expect their faces to be next to the definition for confused in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
With that being really clear, she looks toward the bar where she's got her new little red-headed friend.
She's frowning and looking after the players leaving, and then back to you, and then back after them. And it's clear she's torn as to what she should do. Far enough away to not hear what was taking place, close enough to know that something did.
She just kind of looks at the kind around here. Alright, folks, thank you for cooperating and making that easy on us. Go back to the party, we're sorry. And then she walks towards the bar as quick as she can. Stopping to talk. I don't know what the fuck he just did just now. Did you see what happened?
yeah, you moved over there. That was a good plan. That was a good idea. And then everybody froze, and he left. What did you say? Like, there wasn't a fight, there wasn't a push, there wasn't a shove. What did you say to get them all to leave?
The guy over there, because that's one of his favorite girls, and he was dancing with that. And then I thought it would start a fight, and then right when the swing happened, I went towards it, and then I don't know. I lost time, and I shouldn't have lost. I don't know how the fuck I lost time, but I lost time, and I snapped out of it 3 feet away from where I was, and he was leaving.
Shit. Sounds like a whammy. And then she says that.
Yeah, but how do you blame somebody that doesn't look at you?
Her mouth slightly open. It's clear that she's considering what that might mean. The world is a larger, suddenly scarier place. If kindred can affect one another without needing to make eye contact, without needing slow, quiet, thoughtful conversations, building up that rapport so that their ability to whammy is strong enough to actually be effective. Being able just to talk to someone, being able to aura someone, that is a scary outcome. And speaking of scary outcomes, alone in your office, pondering what just took place, what does Penny gather from that meeting, which interrupted her stay at home, sleep in moment?
She is firstly going to gather up the memos and take them upstairs once her little flock comes back from their, 30-minute lunch break, which should be any moment now. And then read them and ponder. Because she's not horrible with politics, she just doesn't like it.
Understandable. No one likes politics. No one likes others potentially playing a game that makes the decisions for their existence.
Right?
Everyone has politics as just that aspect, which is not an unfair connotation. It's not exactly valid, but it's not an unfair connotation, because politics in and of itself is literally the study and understanding of power. It has also come to be considered the application of said studied power. Typically is social, and the part that is the most unsettling about politics is in every conversation with someone who is not yourself, you are engaging in politics. You've studied and observed them and know what your social dynamic with them is. The totem pole differences between one and the next, who's higher, who's lower, who's tied, all of those mass computations of societal power being considered in fractions of a second. You know better overall where you sit in regards to whatever you are involving yourself with due to the study and application of your social power in that moment. And it happens fast. You walk into a room, and based on how everyone is dressed and how everyone's sitting and how everyone's behaving, you can slot yourself into your appropriate societal level. Everyone can. Is math done much the same way as the measured steps going up stairs? Politics is literally in every conversation. And while a lot of people actually do bother voting with their feet and making their decisions through doing, most people do the math and fail to apply it. They fail to capitalize and maximize their return on investment for their societal power that they've noticed. And that's a consideration for several other times than now, because looking over the messages from Marlena, it is literally warning you that Sawinski is drumming up. And that's the gist of it all. All of the many messages left were preparation for Sawinski, Primogen Sawinski, making preparations, having made preparations, having begun operations. It may or may not be too late. And on that note, it is, as always, a pleasure to visit this world of these characters and their associates. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night all.